Hey guys, it's me, Autumn, at Little Leaf Art Studio, and I have now moved locations officially. I'm not sure when our start date will be. It all depends on the situation with our pandemic. Anyway, so Mother's Day's coming up, so don't show your mom this video. Don't show her that you're going to do this. Make it a secret. So the first one we're going to do is a little, we're going to do a Mother's Day card. These are a few options for Mother's Day cards. First one we're going to do is a little peas in a pod. So Hap-pea Mother's Day. I know I'm really super corny, but the first thing we're going to do is we're going to draw. I'm going to draw 2 circles because I have 2 kids. If your mom has more than 2 kids, draw that number of peas. So that's 1 circle, and then I'm going to do another circle. So I'm going to pretend like one of my kids is making a card for me. So this is my son and my daughter, Alina and Carlo, wishing me happy Mother's Day. So we have 2 circles. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to make the little pod. We also want to draw super duper lightly. This camera is a lot better than the other camera I was using, so I'm not sure you can tell how lightly this is, but you want to draw really, really lightly. You don't want to draw hard. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to draw a line through this circle, not halfway, but a little bit lower, and we're going to curve that line. It is not a straight line. It's curved because the peas are curved. And then what we're going to do is we're going to make a little triangle right here, and then we're going to make a triangle right here, and then we're going to draw a slightly curved line back there behind the 2 peas. Now what we're going to do is from this triangle we're going to draw a curved line, or not a curved line, a slanty line all the way to that circle. And then we're going to go back over here. We're going to draw a slanty line to that circle. And then we're going to draw a curved line in between those 2 circles, just like that. Now we're going to add a stem to our pea pod, and we're going to take an eraser and we're going to erase this section right here. You're not going to see that. So there we go. Let me erase that part a little bit better. Okay, so there's our 2 peas in a pod, and then up here we will write H-A-P dash P-E-A, happy, and then we'll write Mother's Day. Mother's Day. And then write something super duper sweet on the inside, because mommies like that. Okay, I'm gonna make 2 super huge spread out eyes, because that's cute. I like my eyes on things that shouldn't have eyes to be really low and really spread out. And then you can add little eye shines now if you want to, or you can add those later. Okay, so that's a super simple drawing of 2 peas in a pod. If you have more siblings, draw more peas in that pod. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use watercolor, and I'm going to put a wash, is what they call it, of green. Oh, that's too dark. They call it a wash. I'm not too sure why, but I'm going to color in this whole pea and the pea pod all one color. And it's just, I guess it's because you're washing it all over it. I'm not sure. I'm using watercolor. You can color it in with markers if you want. Just watercolor. It's one of my favorites. Okay, so the next thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to take, if you're using watercolor, you're going to take your brush and you're going to dry it off. And right here at the top of your pea, you're with a dry brush, you're going to kind of scoop up some of that watercolor, and that will help make your pea look a little bit more three-dimensional. Now, here's the trick with watercolor. We have to be patient, and we have to wait for this to dry. So what we're going to do, we're going to wait for this to dry. And I know that it takes a long time and it's frustrating, but I believe in you and you have the patience to do this. So wait for it to dry completely. You don't want it to be wet at all. So I'm not going to make you wait for mine to dry. I'm going to pause and then come back in a few minutes when it's dry. Okay, so it is all dry now, and I went ahead and wrote in with a pen the letters Happy Mother's Day. Now what we're going to do is we are going to get a smaller brush, and I'm going to mix some colors. So the first color that I took like a sap green. So this time around what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this sap green, and I'm going to grab, believe it or not, a teensy tiny bit of purple, and there we go. And I'm going to add that purple to my green, and because they are opposite on the color wheel, it'll darken it up. So that is the green, the sap green, same green that I used to color the pea, do this whole wash. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to color the pod part, and so I took that sap green and a teeny tiny little bit of purple, and that darkens it up. So instead of using black to darken up a color, which will make it a little bit grayer and muddier, instead, if you take the opposite color on the color wheel and add it just a teeny tiny bit, not a whole lot, because if you add a whole lot, then it'll turn brown. And you don't want that. Well, you might. In this case, you don't want it, not to darken it up. So there we go. I'm going to paint just that part. And then guess what we have to do again? We have to wait, because it's watercolor. We have to wait for that to dry. Because if we tried to paint that now, if we try to paint this next section, we might mess up and it'll bleed in. So, waiting again. I believe in you. You can do it. Okay, so that part is now dry. And so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to make this green a little bit darker. This time I am going to add a little bit of brown to it. So that sap green that I had, a little bit of purple, and then a little bit of brown. So this is pretty dark. So what I'm going to do right here is I'm going to color in this section of the pea, because the inside would have just a little bit less light. So I'm just going to add so it would be darker. Okay, so over here I got way too much watercolor on it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to dry my brush and I'm going to lift this paint with my brush. Do it again. And that will help. Do it again. Instead of taking my tissue or paper towel and blotting it up where it might accidentally smear the paint all over the place, all I'm doing is I'm drying my brush and I'm carefully picking up that paint with my brush, and it makes it a little bit neater. And so there we go. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some black watercolor and I'm going to color in the eyes. If you notice, I am painting just with the tip of my brush, and I'm going very carefully. I'm not putting a lot of pressure. Super carefully. Now, you can also color around and be really careful and do eye shines. But what I'm going to do is, after I'm done with these eyes and these dry, I have a white gel pen that I am going to add in those eye shines just to make my life a little bit easier. But that's up to you. You can also use a Sharpie if you want a little bit more control for the eyes. I'm going to do the little mouth. It's up to you. Now what I'm going to do is wash my brush out. I'm going to grab a little bit of pink. And I'm going to do a little bit of blush on the cheeks. And I'm going to grab a little bit of black with a bit of water, and I'm going to put in a shadow down here. So there you go. That is my first Mother's Day, cheesy Mother's Day card. I'm sure that I'll do more, but that's my favorite so far. Wish your mamas happy Mother's Day, and give them a big hug, and thank them for all the hard work they do. Stay safe. Miss you guys.